looking at a 2022 Cadillac DPi V.R. During its run in IMSA, in the DPi class, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, 2017 to 2022, became the winningest chassis in DPi. 3 manufacturers championships, drivers championships, triple there as well. All the biggest races at Daytona. Look at this beauty right here. We're gonna learn all about it. Cadillac DPi V.R, made by a number of great partners, many of them who've worked within General Motors family on a wide range of projects from NASCAR to IndyCar. But here in IMSA, the base chassis, it's made by Dallara in Italy. Gearbox coming out of the UK, that being X-Track, engine obviously. Very modern chassis, rectangular shape as you can see, does not extend all the way low down to the floor here. It's because in the bottom here, we're flowing a lot of aerodynamics through. Has a keel. If you watch Formula One, sports cars, it's become the absolute norm as well in prototypes. There's a keel below. Helps to flow air beneath the car, make a lot of downforce beneath it here. A lot of that suction pulling it to the ground. This Cadillac as well, very modern suspension arrangement here. These long protrusions. These are the tubes that hold torsion bars. So you have a splined shaft at the end here and also inside the tub. And as the suspension is working up and down using a rocker arm to rotate that, it's actually twisting this torsion bar here. Why a torsion bar instead of a traditional larger spring and damper handling all of that by itself? You're saving weight, a lot less mass. So cutting edge suspension here, also tucked away, hidden inside, what's called a third spring that helps to manage downforce. Make sure the car does not go below minimum ride height that's allowed by the series. You see the suspension relatively narrow, not long extending arms here so much. See here with A-arm up top, see the brake lines here. Quick disconnect right here. Quite often we will see in the 24-hour race, possibly the 12-hour, but brake change, and instead of just changing the brake pads, we'll disconnect using that quick disconnect, unbolt, remove the entire brake caliper, put in a whole brand new one along with the disc. Quick change, do that super fast. Here we see the push rod itself. This is what is coming in and rotating that rocker arm, twisting the torsion bar. You see the foam here on the front. That is done so that when the nose comes on, it seals and there's no gap, no air escaping from outside of this to feed air straight into the brakes, the brake ducting, make sure that everything is kept as cool as it needs to be. Another great grace note of the Cadillac DPi car, the wheels. These are beaten up. It's not because they don't have beautiful brand new looking wheels. You tend to save the ones that do go through a bit of hard racing as your toe wheels, toe tires as well. You'll notice here one of the great little things done by Cadillac Dallara. They said, you know, let's add some styling in here. This is the Cadillac V series race car, V.R. So what do you have? The spokes done in the shape of a V. 5 of those V's included here, and they even etched in a proper V itself, just to know this is indeed all about Cadillac V series performance. The contour, the shaping of the mirrors as well. Just meant to look rearward, correct? Very true, but there can be aerodynamic benefits to where it's placed, the shape of it. So a bit like a bullet shape here, but where it is placed also sits atop this duct, which helped extract air coming through the car here. Very pronounced in how it sits up here, but all of this done again by intent. Great styling, but also aerodynamic choices being made by Dallara. Here in the side pod, another fun little grace note here. You notice this little hatch that can be pulled open and lifted open during a pit stop. A screen inside there to try and trap any debris that might be coming through. If you're noticing temperatures are coming up on the motor at all, this is something where during a pit stop, time permitting, might crack that open, pull out any little debris, tie rubber that might get in there, help bring the temperatures down just a little bit. The side pod itself, see these vanes flow conditioners that take the air coming through the front of the car, helping to make that downforce. Instead of it just being a wide open channel for it to come out and go wherever, these are all being directed in specific ways to come out of the car, be as clean as possible aerodynamically coming through from a drag standpoint, but also optimizing downforce. Then you get into the back of the car, in this Binks Motorsports 6.2 liter V8. So in 2017, that was the original displacement for the Cadillac DPi V.Rs. So successful. Is it possible to be too successful? This car won 7 races on its debut in 2017. There were only 9 or 10 races, so it did pretty much all the winning. Motor was so powerful, IMSA said, love it, bring it back a little bit smaller. So for 2018 and beyond, it raced in a 5.5 liter V8 configuration, less power, less torque, played more nicely with the other cars. But if you know Cadillac, you know GM, playing nicely, just really not who they are. Nonetheless, this does not have the later 5.5 liter V8. This is true to the period and as powerful as you can get. 6.2 liter V8 sings to about 7,000 RPM. That number itself tells us this is a torque monster as well, not relying on 8, 9, 10,000 RPM to make its power, but this thing will rip tree stumps out of the ground if you let it. So the heart of this motor, look at the exhaust and how they have done the crinkle coating on that. Looks beautiful. It's not just for looks though, done to help try and concentrate, keep as much of the heat within the exhaust headers themselves to send that out through the motor here. Exits on top of the engine cover, something that's become a bit normal for a lot of prototypes. One of the ways that IMSA would regulate power through its balance of performance system, air restrictors, either opening or narrowing the volume, the amount of air that can flow through into the motor. 600 or so horsepower is where the class tended to live. Could have been a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Torque in the 450 plus range. The air would go through here. These are known colloquially as sonic air restrictors because the air would get accelerated so fast, would be going sonic, would come into this box here, feeding nothing but fresh air into the velocity stacks for the V8. Behind it, you see the suspension of the car. Very narrow gearbox, the bell housing here, made by Dallara, the gearbox from X-Track, and 6-speed here, all being paddle shifter in the steering wheel, which is fairly common these days. Rocker arm, push rod rear suspension. The suspension moves up and down. The push rod moves up and down, rotates the rocker arm here, which compresses or releases on the shock and spring here. And then we spoke about up front having a third spring mechanism to manage ride height. You can see that out here in plain sight, the back of the car. This swivel right here connecting to the rocker arms. This right here, instead of it being a spring in the middle, could be called packers, bump rubbers, a variety of things being used, phenolic material, some mesh material, variety of things used. But as the car is going very quickly, this is very much of an aerodynamic management tool. As the car is going faster and going faster, all that downforce is coming on and bringing the car lower and lower to the ground. Within that third spring mechanism, there's a gap. That's what teams are looking to measure and manage every session to make sure that when this compresses, it comes to a point to where it stops, effectively locks almost solid, limits the car from lowering anymore. That maintains as perfect a ride height front and rear as possible, maximizing downforce as well. So it's an innovation, dates back to the late 80s, early 90s. It really took off almost everywhere. But today, with a high downforce vehicle, particularly a prototype but open wheel as well, you will not find one without third spring working. Giant axles here. These almost look like huge bodybuilder forearms, making sure that we're putting that 600 plus horsepower and tons of torque to the ground safely for whether it's a 100-minute race or 24 hours of non-stop racing. You can see on the other side here, we have an alternator providing power, cooling fed to that. Lots of cooling being provided, lots of ducting to a wide array of things, gearbox management system and such, not only to make performance and speed, but also you have to make sure that this lives and lasts. And so with all the heat, hundreds of degrees being generated, a lot of airflow being ducted in here, top of the side pods, into the rear brake ducts, everything here. Temperature management, huge part of this DPi technology. If you look here, the back of the side pods, staring at the rear tires, you see these little red units. What are they? Those are infrared temperature sensors. Those are indeed looking through little holes cut the rear of the side pod, and they're staring directly at the tire. And this is coming across data, live telemetry, so teams can see what is the center temperature of the tire, the inside, the outside. Allows every team to not only understand the temperatures, but also that gradient, center, outside, inside. Going to tell you about tire pressure, whether it's correct or not. Going to give you some insights about cambers and toes on inflation. Real-time data the engineers are looking at, and they know the driver's complaining about a particular handling characteristic. They will for sure start to look at the temperature, the infrared information coming across there. The wheels themselves have a tire pressure monitoring system, acts like more of a global piece of information, telling you about temperatures inside the tire, pressure inside the tire as well. So that's why teams, compared to back in the day where there might have been one person in charge of all these things, you look at a timing stand these days and it is just a row of engineers, a lot of information to look after. Back in 2009, we had two manufacturers innovate at the same time. I don't know if it was unknowingly, but we had Acura with their brand new LMP1 car racing the American Le Mans Series, predecessor to today's IMSA. And also across in Germany, Audi with their brand new LMP1 prototype innovate the same thing. We refer to it as a swan neck, and this has been carried over as a standard piece and a really smart piece of a way to hold on to a rear wing. So beforehand, normally you would have the fixture here in the center of the car. This would happen with a connection at the bottom of the wing. That was the standard. You'd mount below. Realized looking at a lot of aerodynamic data, as more data became available in virtual simulation worlds, that with this mounting that we see on top, on the bottom, as it had happened for decades and decades, that location beneath with just the mounting itself actually robbed a small amount of downforce. It was taking away free surface for the air to pull down on this inverted wing profile, inverted to what you'd find on an airplane. It said instead of mounting below and taking away that strip of space for air to travel across and make downforce, why don't we come up with this swan neck, do a mounting on the top side? Would that help? Indeed it has. So although it's a small improvement, you look at this tapered profile of the swan neck, which does bevel inwards towards the back and allows the air to come in, come around and reconnect, and indeed use this very center piece of the rear wing to make downforce. So this is something that has become common, but it's just wonderful seeing that yet again, this is something Cadillac wanted to make sure was a part of their rear wing profile. You get to the back of the car and air management coming in through the nose, making downforce, doing all the wonderful things beneath the car, feeding a lot of the cooling structures, a lot of ducting and whatnot. We get all that, but there's still 100, 150, 200 miles an hour of air to manage all the way through the car after it's done its various jobs above, below, and internally. Got to exhaust that air. Cadillac here, Dallara, came up with this fairly aggressive shutter system in the back. And this is taking that air as it's coming through, along with what came through the inside of the engine cover itself, but making sure that a lot of pressure is relieved on its way out, also aimed upward as well. And if you look at the actual contour of these shutters, you'll notice that not by coincidence, it mirrors very closely that upswept profile of the rear wing. So you have the air coming through and both trying to leave on the same plane to help them reconnect. Yet another just smart way of doing things by our friends at Cadillac and Dallara. You look beneath the back of the Cadillac DPi V.R and you'll notice that instead of having some of the big, giant, tall tunnels found on earlier prototypes, a little lower, a little bit more of a shallow way that this is done. So the diffuser on the car, again, not super tall, not crazy aggressive, but nonetheless, very smart, very clean. Car making estimated somewhere in the range of about 5,000 pounds of downforce in monster downforce configuration. Would certainly be less some of the bigger, faster tracks like Daytona, where top speed is the key. But the era here, the DPi Formula One, where underbody aerodynamics, not as crazy as aggressive as we've seen in other eras, but this all extremely efficient in how it manages the air coming beneath the car and sends it backwards. Look inside the business aspect of the DPi V.R and you see a lot of cool lights, blinky lights on the right side there, display information, the dash itself, a lot of pages that can be used, whether it's for the drivers to look at a variety of parameters, or mechanics pages in there that they'll tab to look at, warming the car, making sure all the temperatures and pressures are right. There's just an endless array of buttons to push, buttons to remember, dials, knobs, flappy paddles on the back, high tech inside the cockpit for sure, memory and memorization of what dial does what and how much. Everything here can be modified and adjusted to do more or do less. This is one of the cool parts of a more modern era sports car running an HSR. You get to see all the ways that technology has come in and made the cars better than they ever were. Significant component of the 2017 regulations for DPi, in the name of safety, holes on top of the tires, mandatory. So up front here, almost square rectangular shape. Now back we'll look, it is truly a rectangular shape, but why open this big expanse? Wouldn't you rather have this fully closed so everything is really smooth going across the top of the car? Yes, but in the moment of yaw, a significant slide, possibly a full spin, that's all air. That's all air pressure being trapped beneath the bodywork. These tires rotating as quickly as they do generate a lot of turbulence. There's a lot of pressure that can be contained inside here. Upward pressure. So while spinning, the car is not in a stable state. Found that when we would see some prototypes do blowovers or flips, all the data said, this isn't helping. So what are we going to do? We're going to open this large space on top, relieve that pressure. So while the car is racing, doing its normal things, it's flowing a lot of air out through the top, not being done for performance standpoint, but actually for safety standpoint. Also look at the back with how it's done here. Got the inlet feed for the brake ducts, and right behind it, you do indeed have this rectangular slice, a little dip in the bodywork to help smooth this airflow through as best as they could. But this all being done to relieve pressure. So in the event of things going wrong, prevent the car from getting up in the air, flipping, going sideways, along with the stabilizing fin. Truly, looks like styling cues, but indeed 100% about safety, all brought in with this 2017 DPi formula.